The Chickens Coming Home to Roost, an examination of consequences and accountability. The phrase chickens coming home to roost is a metaphor that implies that the consequences of one's behavior and actions will eventually return, perhaps sometimes in an unfavorable way. Originating from an Old English proverb, this saying is deeply embedded in both historical and contemporary narratives, illustrating the universal principle of cause and effect. This video explores the origins and meanings of the phrase, its application in political, social, and personal contexts, and the broader implications for accountability and justice in society as a whole. So let's talk about the origins and meaning of the phrase. The saying, curses like chickens always come home to roost, was first recorded in English literature in the 19th century, but has roots in even older wisdom traditions. It encapsulates the idea that negative actions, particularly those that harm others, will eventually return to haunt the perpetrator. The phrase is often used to convey the inevitability of consequences, suggesting that past misdeeds cannot be outrun indefinitely. In literary and historical contexts, the concept has been employed to describe retributive justice, divine punishment, or even karmic retribution. The idea is echoed in various religions and philosophical traditions, including Buddhism's concept of karma, Christianity's principle of reaping what one sows, and the ancient Greek notion of nemesis. In all of these traditions, the underlying message is that actions, whether good or bad, have consequences that will ultimately return to their point of origin. In terms of political and historical examples, one of the most notable uses of the phrase came from El Haj Malik El Shabazz in response to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Shabazz remarked that the chickens came home to roost, implying that the United States' history of violence and oppression had led to internal consequences. Though controversial, his statement underscored the broader idea that a nation's actions, especially those rooted in justice, would inevitably create internal repercussions. The concept applies broadly in political history. Colonial powers that exploited and oppressed other nations often faced resistance, rebellion, and even perhaps some instances of economic decline. The British Empire, for instance, which once prided itself on the expression that the sun never sets on the British Empire, was this powerful global force, but eventually it faced decolonization and the economic political repercussions of its imperialistic policies. Similarly, the United States' interventions in foreign conflicts have at times led to backlash in the form of terrorist attacks, regional instability, and diplomatic challenges, illustrating the notion that aggressive policies like manifest destiny abroad can lead to domestic consequences. Of course, there are social and cultural applications as well. The idea of chickens coming home to roost is equally relevant in social justice movements. Societies that perpetuate systematic discrimination, economic inequality, and social injustice often face civil unrest and calls for reform. The civil rights movement in the United States, the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, and contemporary protests against police brutality may be examples of societies reckoning with the consequences of their historical and systemic injustices. In corporate and economic contexts, unethical business practices often lead to financial collapse or reputational damage, right? The 2008 financial crisis, for example, was largely attributed to irresponsible lending and risky financial behaviors by banks and financial institutions, as we often used to call it, ninja loans. No income, no assets, or job, or so forth, right? So the economic recession was a powerful reminder of how Unethical decision making, which was making these risky loans, could lead to widespread consequences, reinforcing the principle that actions do have long-term effects. What are the personal and psychological implications? Well, on an individual level, the phrase serves as a cautionary tale about personal responsibility. Those who engage in dishonesty, exploitation, or harmful behavior may experience repercussions later in life, whether through damaged relationships, professional setbacks, or even personal regrets. Conversely, positive actions such as kindness, integrity, and hard work often lead to beneficial outcomes. Psychologists suggest that unresolved guilt and the consequences of past mistakes can manifest in stress, anxiety, and even physical illness. Perhaps even in the African American population, there is some DNA that seems to have residuals from slavery from earlier ancestors. The concept of chickens coming home to roost is not only external, but also internal. Individuals must often face their own conscience and the personal toll of their actions, which the rest of America continues to face for injustices they may have done against Native Americans, African Americans, and other ethnicities. While the phrase is often associated with negative consequences, it also offers an opportunity for reflection and growth. Acknowledging past mistakes and making amends can mitigate the impact of past actions. In both personal and societal contexts, accountability, restitution, and reconciliation are somehow critical to the process of addressing past wrongs. There has to be a reckoning at some point, right? If you think of Rosewood in Florida, the state of Florida did actually make reparations to the survivors, those that were still alive, of course. Even Germany's post-World War II efforts to acknowledge and make reparations for the Holocaust, South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, as well as various restorative justice initiatives worldwide, illustrate the potential for growth and healing. These examples can highlight that while the past cannot be changed, acknowledging mistakes and making amends can pave the way for a more just future. Thus, the phrase, chickens coming home to roost, serves as a powerful reminder of the inevitability of consequences. You can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time, once said the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley. Whether in the context of political policies or social justice or economic practices or personal behavior, actions can create repercussions that eventually return to their source. Understanding this principle encourages a greater accountability, ethical decision-making, and a commitment to justice. Ultimately, while the past cannot be undone, recognizing its impact and striving for positive change ensures that future chickens bring home not just reckoning, but also reconciliation and progress. If you're wondering about this image, this is an image of El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz while probably making the pilgrimage, which I've been able to replicate here using AI software, although it's not precisely an exact rendition because there are some possible copyrights that might be associated with the images of certain individuals. But nonetheless, it's pretty close. I actually idolized El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, actually choosing to suggest Malik as a name to my wife's third child, ex-wife actually, third child, who actually was not my child, but still nonetheless. She did take up the offer and did name him Malik. Additionally, of course, his original name being Malcolm Little and then Malcolm X. Malcolm was another popular name, and I myself at one point had considered taking on the middle name of Malcolm, but ended up not pursuing it based on protests from my father. But nonetheless, I have a great deal of respect as we now go into Black History Month of this figure who believed in doing whatever needed to be done by any means necessary. And he was a man who was prepared to die for his cause, just as we had Martin Luther King Jr. as well, who faced a similar fate. And so definitely in remembrance of his struggle and his life and the things he achieved, this one's for you, Brother Malcolm. Take care. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, this is a safe space. If you're returning, I love and appreciate you so much, and I'm glad that you're back. In the name of the Most High God, I wish you health, wealth, prosperity, and abundance. Blessings and protection. Signing off. Take care. Have a great day.